Hi, everybody. Welcome to Growth Uncut, the podcast all about Justice 2.0 and how we are all trying desperately to upgrade justice to make it more compassionate, humane, evidence-based, and really seeing and hearing the people that are within the justice sector. So I am really excited to have our guest Tamara on because we are partners in crime. And we have been working together for over a year and doing some really interesting and exciting stuff together. So, Tamara, please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm really excited as well. My name is Tamara Höfer. I'm originally from Austria, but I used to be a prison officer in the UK. And then I went back to Austria, worked some time as a consultant at the UNODC, and then I decided to found my own organization, which I'm now the CEO of, which is called Richtungswechsel, or RW for ease of pronunciation. And at RW, we do leadership work for staff working in correctional settings, as well as advocacy and community building initiatives.
Wonderful, lovely. And we are going to dedicate this podcast kind of session to really talking about things that are happening. So a lot of the time people say, you're thinking about the theoretical stuff or the abstract stuff, but this is the stuff that is happening here and now, which I really hope will bring a lot of hope to the listener and really recognise that upgrades are taking place across Europe, which are really exciting. And so the topic of this podcast is the Champions Community. It's a joint project that we've been doing together. It's been incredibly interesting and enjoyable. But yeah, tell us a little bit about what is the Champions Community?
The Champions Community is a one-year leadership program that is currently piloting in 3 different countries. So that is the Czech Republic, that is Germany, specifically in Bremen, and Malta. And it is a project where we, for 1 year, train our champions who are middle managers in their respective prisons, in their respective contexts, in growth culture, in the growth project, really, and at the same time mentor them to implement growth principles within their context. And yeah, it's been a wild ride, I guess, because we've learned so much over the last year that we've done the pilot and also the last almost 2 years now that we've been working together. And what I think is exciting about it, that beyond this leadership program, what we're now building is a larger scale community. So we want to bring like-minded professionals under the sort of umbrella of, as you say, Justice 2.0 together within the Champions community who want to see leadership on every level.
Yeah, you talk a lot about collaboration. It's something that is like imprinted on your heart. For you, why is collaboration so important, would you say, within this space?
I, first of all, think that there are so many different perspectives within like the justice ecosystem. It is an ecosystem. There are so many different people, professions, obviously incarcerated individuals, and also like from different walks of life who then come together in this very structured and hierarchical environment when it comes to prisons especially, but also justice system at large. And in my opinion, I just always think about, okay, this is what I know. This is what I could know depending, on reflections and on also collaboration and my experiences. But then there's also a lot that I cannot know because it is something that I need to talk to other people with about their own personal like experiences, lived experiences, and also professional education. And so to me, it just makes sense to collaborate on things and be communal because it makes things more successful. We see this also when it comes to diversity in general. Like when we see different perspectives, when we invite women to a table, for example, where previously there hadn't been any, or if we just, put other people from different walks of life with different experiences, with different diversities together, we will always create a better outcome for everyone because we will be able to see each other's perspectives and put them into our solutions. And I see that the co-creation aspect of that is something, A, that will effectively have a greater chance of succeeding, but also B, I believe that it's more fun. I enjoy seeing new perspectives. I enjoy working with other people. And so I would say those are the reasons that I think collaboration is the key.
Yeah. And I guess like just explaining a little bit about the different elements we've got in our champions communities. We have our residentials, so we go away with our champions to different countries. So we've been to Germany, Czechia, as well as Malta. We have the summit, which is happening September 2026. So that's very, very exciting in Vienna. And that's when everyone will convene and celebrate. And we will do our conference around leadership. We have also had online mentoring, and you were really passionate about having training mentors that had a local context of their prisons and of that system. Why has that been important, do you think, rather than having a mentor that doesn't live in that country and doesn't know that context?
So I think there are several reasons. First of all, we're doing an international project, but when it comes to project implementation, we do have to be realistic about not everyone is fluent in English, and we need to just make sure that people have space where they can actually reflect on what they've learned in their own languages. And we've built that into the residentials, into the trainings, where we've also made sure that there would be elements of them working in their own smaller groups to make sure that they can also speak about their contexts. But then when it comes to the mentoring, it really helps to, when you're speaking about your own experiences, that you're speaking to someone who actually gets it. And you will not be able to really feel that way, even if somebody might have had the right experiences and they do understand it. If they haven't seen your context, they don't speak your language, it will be harder for you to relate. And so we wanted to already overcome that barrier. And then secondly, I really see a lot of times when we go to trainings, especially international trainings or conferences, that people get extremely excited by it. There's the buzz after event, they've connected, they had so many ideas, they've made notes. I do the same. And then you come back home and suddenly, because you've been away, wall of emails, first of all. And then secondly, a lot of other pressures, things that you have to prioritize, etc., which is all fair enough. But a lot of times you could build in some of these changes and weave them into it rather than actually thinking it's, this larger additional task. And that's where we wanted the mentoring to come in, because they could help by knowing the local context, by speaking the language with their knowledge of the context, and sort of help them reflect in a different way and ask the right questions. And then secondly, they were able to keep that buzz going because there were continuous meetings after the residentials, and it wasn't just all right, now do your work and see you in 3 months. But it was actually, okay, I will see you every 2 weeks and we can talk about what we have learned at that residential and how you're going to implement it. And I think that to an extent holds people accountable, but also it helps you really, really understand that you're not alone with this issue. And it gives you, again, a different perspective to see, okay, we both know this context. Maybe I don't have a solution for this, but you do. And that is exactly why we've also done it twofold, that there's a one-on-one mentoring between one participant and the mentor, but also group mentoring with all the participants together with the mentor to also support each other, and seeing that, my colleagues might be struggling with the same thing. And that is encouraging, because sometimes you lose motivation when a task gets too big. And so for us, the mentoring was really something where we can break things down and have that continuous support.
Yeah, wonderful. We also had inspirational talks. We've also had newsletters. We've also had continuous professional development kind of online courses. And so the things that we, have really focused on within the program is the importance of reflection and this real view that a leader can be anyone. It can be of any rank, any role, but we have a leader in us and we need to nurture that leadership. Firstly, let's talk a little bit about reflection, because in reality, you said earlier before we went live about the challenges we face around very pressurized environments that are really hard to reflect on. But for you, what's the importance, and what kind of things might we be able to do to just reflect a little bit more based on some of the benefits you may have experienced?
So when I was an officer, I actually had the chance to be in a reflective space every week. And I think that room for supervision gives you not only break from obviously the day to day, which is super helpful because sometimes you just need a little bit of space for yourself, but it also, and this is more important, it helps you really think about solutions to your work, because it gives you the space to thoroughly think about and reflect on your work, on your current situation, on a problem that you're facing, and then have the space to also brainstorm with somebody else who knows the context again, how you can solve it. And I think that is something that we, when you go to work after you finish, you don't necessarily want to talk about it anymore. You just want to go home. You just want to, calm down and relax. And having the space for some supervision, for some mentoring really gives you that sort of support mechanism, and it increases well-being. There's lots of research that looks at exactly that, how supervisions help you not only with your personal well-being, with your occupational health, but also crucially, they reduce mistakes, they reduce risks. So I always think about how actually having 1 hour of supervision, let's say once a month or something like that, could reduce the risks and the mistakes that are happening on the floor massively. And for me, that is something where I just really believe that why don't we do that more often? Why is that such a huge investment when we understand that, yes, of course, it impacts our staffing and we are understaffed, but at the same time, I'm having this cycle of potentially then ending up in a burnout or leaving and then having even fewer staff. It seems like not such a big investment in the sense of the return that you would get there.
I think we also talk an awful lot about the little steps, like the 1% within the training, but also just generally, I guess, is our kind of ethos that instead of this culture shift transformation being this massive thing, that ultimately by breaking it down, it makes it a lot more manageable. The camps have just done a great job in picking that up, haven't they, in terms of just really focusing on those 1% and those small things. What have you seen in terms of either their growth or the growth that they've made in their establishments, just by having that kind of idea that it's not about these massive, large, resource-heavy projects, it's about doing the small things and they adding up? What have you seen that's been a benefit of that thought?
I think it's twofold. So the first one is the sort of little steps in their own sort of mindset and in their own understanding of, what you could do and what your possibilities are. Reflecting on how the champions, started the program and where they are now, I see so many reflections where they're telling us, oh, I never thought about it that way. For the first time, I've, asked this group of people for opinions, for example. For the first time, I thought I should invite, person X or operational group B to the room. Or also I've had a lot of them sort of tell me, oh yeah, it was the first time where I thought, well, actually I should extend my hand again and I should talk it out and I should be able to work with that person. And I think that's incredibly powerful. And it also, again, comes back to that point of collaboration. And I think it really sparks in them that collaboration is not limited to your operational group. Collaboration is not limited to only staff, but it's all the people who are also incarcerated, as well as the staff, as well as, external providers or whoever else who's in the prison who contribute to this ecosystem. And I've really seen them say, kind of out of surprise, they would just say something and then a couple months later, it would just be part of their daily workings. And that's just really, really incredible. And at the same time, in terms of like practical things, they've implemented a lot of different things. They have been able to work more directly with incarcerated individuals and using lived experience and sort of the service users side, which they hadn't really done before. There have been bigger projects and events that have been taking place, but also the small conversations that they've been having with people on the landings to explain the project, to explain sort of the mindset behind it. All of that has been really incredible to see. And also suddenly seeing them think about a room, a situation very differently. They've become so much more solution focused. For example, I had a reflection recently with one of the other mentors of the Champions Community. And we spoke about how one participant had come into a situation where they immediately saw a problem and also a solution and started implementing a solution. And then in the mentoring environment, they were then saying, there's 30 people working there. I've just moved there for the first time and nobody had complained about it. And I don't understand how. And it was just such a powerful moment because frankly, they hadn't necessarily been somebody who would proactively search for solutions back then. And now hearing that was really, really empowering, where I thought, wow, they've really come a far way. And it's not just them, it's all of the champions who've kind of undergone this trajectory. And that's really exciting.
Yeah. I remember on our second residential, one of the champions saying right at the end, because we said, oh, are you seeing any impact? And he said, well, there has definitely been impact in this project because I'm different, and because of that, that is going to trickle out, isn't it? It is the things we do, but it's also the way in which we shift and change is having that ripple effect, isn't it, in terms of how we respond to things and how we see things. But yeah, they have been an incredible bunch of humans and just really resilient. You know, culture change is really difficult, and building in-house capacity with English, not as their first language. I mean, we're massive fans of our champions, but without them and their dedication, it wouldn't have been as magic as it had been. And I think there's just something about just listening to you talk a little bit about leadership and about collaboration. A lot of the time within prisons, I hear, certainly in terms of the kind of senior leaders, talking about how leadership is quite a lonely journey. It's quite a lonely place. And I guess the hierarchy kind of shows it, doesn't it? Right at the top, there's only one person and they are on their own, right? And I love the idea that, you know, I think we share a lot of values because we believe in collaborative leadership, that anyone could be a leader, that you can have people around you that also lead and have a voice and matter within that journey. But I guess for you, looking back on our first cohort, and I appreciate you haven't yet talked about the summit, so it's not over yet, but what has been, you know, what has been your highlight as a leader, I guess? You know, what would you say has been your highlight?
Honestly, directly working with operational staff and middle managers is, for me, one of the most incredible parts of my work. And that's really why we are doing what we're doing, and seeing them shift and seeing them be grateful for the project and saying, you know, as you said, it's changed me, I'm different. Or also just saying it's the first time that I feel welcome somewhere and it's the first time that I belong, is so powerful. Like, this is why we're doing it, because there are so many people who are like-minded. We just don't know it, and we need to know it. I really refuse to leave people behind who actually really want to make a difference. And there are so many. And I think, you know, a lot of people just don't feel like necessarily that they belong somewhere. And I think for me, that is the biggest sort of output of the champions community, to make people feel belonging, and also obviously then supporting them and their mechanisms in making a huge difference, which they already do. But I think it's about realizing that and celebrating that, and not sort of admitting defeat when you're actually doing a lot already, which unfortunately tends to happen in the sense of people feel like they're not doing enough because the system is doing so much that you just feel undervalued perhaps, or you feel like you could always do more. But in reality, we just need to be grateful for those sort of little things. And when I'm looking back also in terms of the highlight of the cohort, for me, it really is about showing them that they should be part of this project, because I think at the start, not all of them were necessarily convinced they should be. And seeing all of them make a difference, and that spreading in their prison, but also with other colleagues and so on. And then now people finding interest in the summit, and seeing also that it goes into all the different levels. We had a bunch of people who actually come from a variety of levels in terms of within one prison, because also the systems are different in the countries. And I think that's just been powerful, and goes to show that, yes, we can create this sort of collaboration and we can work on each level together, and we still need leadership on every level.
Yeah, brilliant. Tell us a little bit about the summit. So for listeners that are post September 2026, you may have missed the boat, but that's not to say that there won't be a future summit. So just look it up and find us, because I'm sure we'll still be doing summits. But this is the first summit that we will be doing. Tell us what the plan is currently, of course, because I know things can change.
Well, of course, things can change, but I'm super excited about it, I'll be honest. I think we've got incredible people coming, besides our champions, of course, and our partners from the prison services in Malta, Czech Republic, and in Bremen in Germany. We also have, obviously, our project team come together, but then we have a variety of incredible experts within criminal justice and criminal justice leadership, prison leadership, who are coming to Vienna, where I also live, which is beautiful. And we will be talking about leadership on every level. So we will have talks, for example, by Gustav Talving from Europris, as well as Olivia Rope from Penal Reform International, sort of reflecting on journeys of leadership and the human rights imperative, etc. And then we will have quite intense days, I would say, with a lot of input on how do you train leadership. how do you support sort of the pedagogy behind it? What is there to reflect on? But at the same time, how does senior leadership sort of enforce and empower people who are either in leadership positions or on the various levels within a prison to make sure that they actually can make a difference? And I think that's just something where we will have so many people from different walks of life, from different countries. We're expecting more than 15 countries. We have people from Jordan traveling to Vienna for this. So I'm super, super excited about that. And at the same time, we're also going to be talking about not only different countries and different contexts, but also different professions and different levels within a prison and the Ministry of Justice. We have a guest from the Council of Europe, Donci Boszkowski. We will have one of our partners, also Torben Adams, for example, or Beverly Wolf, the Director General of the Northern Irish Prison Service. And I think it's just going to be really an incredible 2 days. And we also have Alison Liebling coming, who I'm obviously a big fan of in terms of everything. But especially because like my prison office training, the Bible at the time was Alison Liebling, the prison officer. So it was just my first sort of touching point, and having her come as well is going to be super incredible. And yeah, I'm excited about all the guests, but I'm especially excited that we've given enough time for the coffee breaks and the in between, because I think that's exactly where as you like to say always, the magic happens. And we will have some interactive work in between. We will present our champions community and sort of the future of what we're planning, how we're building the community and how we're strengthening it and furthering it. And we're also speaking about the opportunities that we have in collaborating more between the different countries, and we'll present all the different EU projects that are happening. So I'm really, really, really excited about this. And I think after the 2 or 3 days, because we have a prep day together within the champions community, it will be just a magical time.
And I think the way in which it's been designed and the real focus on relationships and conversations and connections and all the things that we've talked about in terms of kind of collaboration at its core, I really look forward to that aspect of it. I sometimes get really tired at conferences, not because they're not wonderful, but just because there's loads of information that gets just thrown at you and there's not much time to make sense of it and reflect, of course. So in light of how it's designed, I'm really excited to see what that kind of feels like. And it's going to be quite personal as well. So I think we are going to be talking about vulnerabilities and challenges, and we're going to talk honestly about those kind of things, because leadership isn't all rosy sometimes, and it's really important to have those conversations as well. So I encourage everyone. Of course, we are both massive fans of the summit because we've kind of grown it. But really encourage anyone to come to the 2-day event and get to experience Vienna, which is by far the most beautiful city ever. I got engaged in Vienna, so it's a special place in my heart. How would anyone get a ticket? How would anyone find out more about the summit, Tamara?
Yes, so we can link into the description for the podcast, of course, but on our website, on the championscommunity.eu or on the Richtungswechsel website, we have the Champions Community tab where there's the agenda and the link to our ticket tailor. You can also just Google European Leadership and Education Summit. That will guide you to the ticket tailor site, and there you can find all the information to get your tickets, and to also have a contact where you can ask us for hotel recommendations, for any support mechanisms in terms of like getting to Vienna and traveling around Vienna. We are experts in doing travel briefs and informations around that. So we are very happy to help anyone that needs sort of logistical support. And I also just want to drop a goodie. We will also have a professionally made short film, or a short video, I guess, which is going to show a little bit about our pilot. And I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, it warmed my heart. And it does capture, like we say, the magic, but it just captures how much people had fun. And I think, again, that does happen in prisons. You know, I've laughed till I've cried in prisons, but it's just really lovely to see joy with people that have got a really challenging job and work in some really challenging environments. So, yeah, and that will be available post-summit as well. So we will have, for those that are thinking, I'm not going to learn anything about this, please reach out to either Tamara or myself. and we will give you some information. But also, once we launch the short film, we will be sharing that more broadly. So wonderful. Any other call to actions? Anything else you want to say?
As you already know, we are also planning an ambassador program as part of the Champions community, as well as hopefully continuing on our leadership program. So if you're interested in finding out more, if you want to be part of the community, if you're thinking, oh, I would love that in my prison, in my country, reach out to us, reach out to yourself, of course, Sarah, or also me. We are here to actually connect all these dots. If you feel like what we've talked about today, or what Justice 2.0 is about, and any other parts of the podcast, really, if any of that sort of hits a nerve and you say, yeah, that's me, you should be part of the community. And so please reach out to us.
Lovely. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tamara. It's always a pleasure. Really appreciate you, and we really look forward to working hopefully lots and lots and lots in the future. Thanks, folks, for listening. And if you want to hear more about what we do, Justice 2.0, have a look at our website, www.growtransformbelong.com. I'm on LinkedIn. Tamara's on LinkedIn. So just hunt us down. You'll find us. So yeah, all the best. And thank you so much, Tamara.
Thank you.